showing. remains one of the most powerful tools for transforming society. The knowledge and values you have gained here are meant not only for personal achievement, but for service to Ghana, Africa, and the wider world. The university's strategic plan, launched in 2024, emphasizes student-centered, technology-driven, and interdisciplinary learning, positioning our graduates to thrive in an increasingly complex and digital global environment. I am glad to observe that we are already seeing the impact of our intentionality in these areas. And as a university, we must continue to place the student experience at the heart of our mission. I'm encouraged by management's commitment to fostering an inclusive culture in which students feel supported, valued, and empowered to succeed. These efforts are shaping a truly transformative student experience, and I urge management to continue advancing this important strategic priority. Vice Chancellor, distinguished guest speaker, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, it is now my pleasant duty to declare this assembly duly constituted for the award of degrees to successful graduates. I invite Madam Vice Chancellor, Professor Nana Abba Appiah Amfo, to present her report on the status of the university. Thank you very much.
Chair of Council, members of the University Council, Pro-Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, Registrar, Provost, Deans, Directors, and Heads of Department, our distinguished guest speaker, members of Convocation, members of the School of Graduate Studies Management Board, staff and students, alumni, graduates, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, joining us from all around the world, good morning. It is my pleasure to warmly welcome you to this congregation ceremony for the 2024-2025 cohort of students from the School of Graduate Studies. The February 2026 congregation ceremonies are dedicated to undergraduate and postgraduate students from the 4 colleges of the university. In total, 15,288 graduates will be awarded degrees during 17 congregation sessions. This number is made up of 153 PhDs, 4,197 master's graduates, 10,543 undergraduates, and 397 students will be graduating with diplomas. We are indeed pleased that you are able to join us to celebrate the remarkable achievements of our students. Graduating students, today we celebrate the completion of your academic programs, as well as the boldness and confidence with which you step into the next stage of your lives. Congratulations and best wishes to you all. State of the University. I'm pleased to share highlights of the university's progress over the past year, guided by our strategic plan for the period 2024 to 2029. The 4 reports can be found in the congregation brochure. Through deliberate investments in teaching, research, innovation, governance, and partnerships, the University of Ghana has continued to consolidate its position as Ghana's premier university, a leader in West Africa, and a respected global institution. Our work remains anchored in our 5 strategic priorities: transformative student experience, impactful research, commitment to our faculty and staff, engagement and partnerships, and sustainable resource mobilization and stewardship. Academic and student affairs. For the 2025-2026 academic year, 16,498 new undergraduate students and 6,651 graduate students have enrolled in various programs, and we continue to work towards expanding access, equity, and academic excellence. The automation of academic and administrative processes continues across various units, improving efficiency, turnaround times, and service delivery. Global rankings and reputation. I'm particularly proud to highlight the university's exceptional performance in global university rankings, which reflect the strength of our academic enterprise and research environment. In the 2026 Times Higher Education World University Rankings, the University of Ghana emerged as Ghana's top-performing institution in the key areas of research environment, industry, engagement, and international outlook. In the 2026 QS World University Rankings, the University of Ghana remains the highest-ranked university in Ghana and West Africa, and among the leading institutions in sub-Saharan Africa. We also placed first in Ghana and second in West Africa in the inaugural Times Higher Education Interdisciplinary Science Rankings 2025, underscoring our strength in cross-disciplinary research. The University of Ghana School of Law has been ranked the best in Ghana and West Africa and sixth in Africa. I can hear the lawyers. In the 2026 Times Higher Education World University Rankings by subject for law, confirming the school's status as a leading center for legal education and research. Research, innovation, and partnerships. Madam Chair, the university continues to lead in research and innovation. In 2025, the Research and Innovation Directorate and our colleges executed 133 research agreements valued at 41 million USD, demonstrating strong global confidence in the work of our faculty and researchers. The UG in Carbon Collaborative has been launched, aimed at empowering young people to transform Ghana's agri-food systems through inclusive youth-led solutions. An innovation enclave, a state-of-the-art facility established in partnership with Imperial College London and the Cosmos Innovation Center, has been commissioned to provide a makerspace that enables students and researchers to translate ideas into impactful solutions addressing Africa's development challenges. Infrastructure. Madam Chair, while infrastructure constraints remain a challenge, the university continues to expand facilities for student accommodation and to support teaching, learning, and research. Management of the university has supported the Student Representative Council and Graduate Students Association of Ghana on the initiation of a hostel project, the first phase of which will provide 5,000 beds for students. Preliminary work has started towards the construction of a 10,000-bed student hostel through a private-public partnership. This project will use prefabricated technology for the construction of the hostel as a cost-efficient measure. Achievements of our community. Our students, faculty, and alumni continue to bring honor to the university. Among many achievements, UG was adjudged National Best University in Practical Agriculture at the 2025 National Farmers' Day. The UG debate team emerged as 2025 Pan-African Universities Debate Champions. Students of the UG School of Law won the 2025 Jessup Ghana Moot Court competition. And this will be repeated in my report for next year because they have just won the 2026 Jessup Ghana Moot Court competition. The Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research has received national and global recognition for its contributions to health research. 3 of our students have won international awards in sustainable food packaging design. Many of our faculty members have received prestigious international honors and recognition for excellence in their fields, and I'll mention a few. Former Vice Chancellor Emeritus Professor Clifford Niboy Tego and Pro-Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, Professor Gordon A. Awandare, and Professor Emmanuel Ohene Afuaka, a member of faculty, have been honored for their respective contributions to mathematics and science excellence, biomedical research, and natural sciences at the 2025 Millennium Excellence Awards. Professor Awandare has also received the prestigious Barley K. Ashford Medal in recognition of his outstanding leadership and contributions to global health research. Professor Elsie Ifa Kaufman, Dean of the School of Engineering Sciences, has been formally inducted as an International Fellow of the Royal Academy of Engineering, becoming the first Ghanaian ever to receive this prestigious honor. I am pleased to mention that I have been appointed to the following high-level positions: Chair of the Council of the Association of Commonwealth Universities, Vice Chair of the Worldwide Universities Network Partnership Board, and the Association of African Universities Ambassador for Gender Equity and Social Inclusion. I am humbled by these appointments, and I'm sure that I speak on behalf of all members of the university community who have been honored or appointed to various high national and international bodies, that it is achievements such as these that spur us on towards reaching excellence and maintaining high standards in our work. I encourage all of us as members of our community to continue to work hard to keep the flag of the University of Ghana flying high. Now to our graduates, your journey to this moment has required resilience, discipline, and determination, especially when you did a PhD. Hopefully your heads are not damaged forever. Today marks both an ending and a beginning, the successful closure of one chapter of your lives and the beginning of another, and we proudly salute your achievements. As you step into the wider world, I urge you to uphold the values of excellence, integrity, and service. Continue to be worthy ambassadors of the University of Ghana, and may your contributions positively shape society. Once again, congratulations to you all. Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chancellor, for your reports. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker for this morning's congregation ceremony is His Lordship Justice Richard J. Frimpong. His Lordship is a graduate of the University of Ghana with an LLB degree. He proceeded to obtain his postgraduate Barrister at Law at the Ghana School of Law. In 2013, His Lordship was sponsored by the International Maritime Authority to study for an LLM degree in International Maritime Law at the International Maritime Institute in Malta. He completed his program with distinction and returned home in 2020. 2014. He was called to the bar in October 1998, and after practicing law for 5 years, he decided to pursue a career on the bench, preferring to start from the very bottom of the judicial ladder as a district court magistrate in 2003. In 2010, he was appointed Justice of the High Court, and in 2020, he was appointed Justice of the Court of Appeal. In January 2024, he was sworn in as a Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana, where he continues to serve his motherland. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me welcome His Lordship Richard Ejie Frimpong to the podium to deliver his address.
Chairperson of the University Council, the members of the University Council here present, Madam Vice Chancellor, Pro-Vice Chancellors, Provost, Registrar, Deans and Directors, Heads of Department, faculty and staff, Nimei, Naimei, Nananum, distinguished guests, graduates, media, ladies and gentlemen. I say good morning to everybody. Good morning. It is a great honor for me to join you this morning to address this congregation of this reputable school of our great university. And I thank the organizers for extending this invitation to me. This gathering is to honor success, but is also to recognize discipline, hard work, and sacrifice. Academic pursuit, especially at advanced level, is no bed of roses. It is indeed a tortuous journey. I had my fair share of the frustrations inherent in higher academic pursuits. As a young student admitted in 1992 to read law at the then Faculty of Law of this university, I decided to work my fingers to the bone in order to make the LLB selection after our level 100. Those days, there would be about 80 students admitted to level 100. After the first 2 semesters, the best 40 would be selected for LLB, the next 20 for BA Law, and the remaining 20 would be sent out of the faculty to read other programs. The good thing was that with the newly introduced semester system then, result slips were issued to students so they could see their grade points. And as colleagues and study mates, we could compare our performances. And on the basis of the comparisons, I seemed to be emerging as one of the best in the class. But the unorthodox was to happen. At the end of the second semester, the selection list was posted on the faculty notice board. And to my utter shock, my index number was neither among the 40 LLB nor the next 20 BA. And colleagues who had lower grade points, as our comparisons had revealed, had made it to the LLB group. Was this an error? Maybe it was. Maybe it was not. But I complained, and the Law Students Union intervened. A petition was presented Some investigations were conducted. The whole selection list was revised, whereupon I was placed in my rightful LLB position. 33 years have passed, but I'm yet to have a full understanding of what actually went wrong. But I did not come out of it without being subjected to menacing intimidation. 2 schools of friends, one school advising me to forego the challenge, citing possible academic victimization. The other school urging me on to fight and fight. The rest, as we say, is history. With this unpleasant experience and others too numerous to recount, I believe I am in a unique position to recognize academic victory when I see one and celebrate the victors, which you truly are today. Accordingly, I extend my hearty congratulations to you all for the honor you have brought upon yourselves, your parents, families, friends, and the entire academic community. But whilst you swim in this glory and enjoy the well-deserved celebration that comes with it, may you be reminded that your journey has not ended. Indeed, it has begun. Therefore, in the coming months and years, you need to, as the good book says, mount up like eagles, re-energized to embrace the challenges that may come your way as men and women of professionalism and skill, working within various facets of our national life and the global community. I note with pride that for many of you, this is not just a start, it is a leap forward. You have walked the path of working professionals, and now you have upskilled. Let that experience be your fuel to accelerate to higher levels. You have proven you can adapt, persevere, and grow. Nothing should shackle you from achieving your goals. As professionals, some of you have likely seen firsthand the impact of innovation and disruption. You have worked on projects that drive change, led teams, and solved complex problems. Now you are better equipped to lead in your fields. To this noble school, your guidance has helped shape leaders, innovators, and change makers, and your impact has been far-reaching. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the view today is that educational quality has been compromised in the effort to expand universal access to meet the Sustainable Development Goal 4. The increased enrollment has not had a corresponding elevation in funding, either from the public or the private sector. And in the wind of this increased enrollment, there is continued output of graduates into a highly competitive job market with few opportunities or openings for them to take up. These are matters that ought to be addressed and addressed with utmost seriousness. Madam Chair, in the chapters and verses of my working life, I have picked few lessons which continue to shape my attitude to work, relationship with people, and indeed my very persona. Let me share one with you, and I prefer calling it, "Let your work speak for you, even in your absence." Some 23 years ago, then working as a magistrate in charge of the Asante-Bekwai District Court, I was assigned additional responsibility for running the district court in Fomena and Kuntrasi, those of you who know that enclave. And I had shared the 5 days of the week among the courts. One fine Tuesday, I went to sit in the Kuntrasi court. In my absence, and with no prior notice, the then Chief Justice, the late Justice Akwa, visited my court in Asante-Bekwai on his routine regional tour of the Ashanti region. I was told that on arriving at the court, he asked why the court was not in session. My registrar explained to him that I was on an outstation duty in Kuntrase. The Chief Justice then decided to run an open assessment of my work in my absence. Even though the court was not in session, there were pockets of litigants and policemen filing documents and renewing warrants in the court. The siren of the Chief Justice had also drawn a sizable number of gossips to the scene. To assess my integrity and attitude to work, I was told that the Chief Justice sat in my chair in the open court and asked the gathering to give their own testimonies about my integrity and the way I do my work. So whilst I was far away in Kuntrase, a public hearing was being conducted on my integrity. But I was told that the comments about me were so heartwarming that the Chief Justice opened his diary and booked my name. I seem to have passed with distinction. A few days later, I received a correspondence from the Office of the Chief Justice asking me to submit 10 copies of my judgment for evaluation and possible promotion. Promptly, I did. Then 2 weeks later, I received another letter promoting me to the second judge as a judge. And this was about a year and some months at the magisterial level. The voices of the people on that day, even in my absence, tend to be the voice of God. Distinguished graduates, in all your working life, let your work speak for you. It may do so in your absence. And I say that in our working lives, there are unseen examiners who report directly to God. But prior to that, my posting to Asante Bekwai itself had seemed an unfair deal. After I was sworn in as magistrate and gone through orientation, I received a posting to a district court in Kumasi. I later had information that a colleague of mine, touted as a niece to a politician, preferred the court I had been posted to. True to that, the anchor politician had managed to influence a change in my posting in favor of the niece. When Bekwai was proposed to me, I readily accepted it. I recall telling the Deputy Judicial Secretary, Mr. Agbevo, that I was ready to serve my country in any part of Ghana. As fate would have it, I later got to know that the lady could not contain the pressure of work at the beloved station, fell ill out of frustration, and abandoned post to travel abroad. Meanwhile, the unwanted station, Asante Bekwai, became a turning point in my career development. I've learned that in our working life, there is no bad station. There is indeed a bad employee. Those of you already in employment, be ready to move when movement comes your way. And those yet to gain employment, be ready to accept service in any part of the country. A ship in the harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. In Ghana's context, your role in driving development is crucial. Whether in technology, business, or public service, your expertise can help shape our nation's future. Think about how you contribute to the agenda of the nation, drive innovation, and uplift communities. Go out there not as a definition of change, go and be the change. And always remember, leadership is not just about titles, it's about impact. Be the change you want to see, support others, mentor, and pay it forward. Today marks a significant milestone for you. You have earned it. You have balanced work, life, and academics, often juggling multiple roles. That is no small feat. As you move forward, remember, every challenge is a chance to apply your knowledge, drive change, and inspire others. Stay focused, stay driven, and lead with purpose. And let me leave you with the first stanza of MHB 601. And I quote, "They who thread the path of labor follow where my feet have trod. They who work without complaining do the holy will of God. Nevermore thou needest seek me. Raise the stone and thou shalt find me. cleft the wood, and I am there. Unquote. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Lordship, for that thought-provoking address, challenging all of us to let our work speak for us. I hope you have been challenged enough to go out there and practice the insights His Lordship has shared with us. Shall we put our hands together once again for him? Thank you, Your Lordship, once again. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is a tradition here in the University of Ghana that at congregation ceremonies, one of the best graduating students delivers a valedictory message on behalf of the graduating class. Our valedictorian for this session is Abdullah Abubakar. Abdullah Abubakar was born in Takoradi as the third of 9 children. He attended Takwas Senior Secondary School from 2001 to 2003, where he studied science and was privileged to have received a Get Fund scholarship after the first year. In 2004, he enrolled at the University of Ghana and obtained a BSc in Mathematics and Computer Science. After his national service in 2009, Abdullah earned an MPhil degree in mathematics in 2011 at the University of Ghana, which was partly sponsored by the Carnegie Next Generation African Academic Scholarships. In 2012, he pursued an MSc in mathematics at the University of Western Ontario, Canada, with support from Western Graduate Research Scholarship. Upon his return in 2014, he was appointed an assistant lecturer in the Department of Mathematics at the University of Ghana, a position he continues to hold. In 2017, he commenced his PhD studies with support from the University of Ghana Banga Africa project. This grant enabled him to conduct research with his supervisor at the University of Aberdeen, UK, and attended workshops at Isaac Newton Institute for Mathematical Sciences, University of Cambridge, where he engaged with some experts in his field. His doctoral work focused on fusion systems of finite groups, contributing to a proposed new proof to the theorem of classification of finite simple groups, a theorem considered as a monumental achievement in the history of mathematics. Abdullah is passionate about advancing mathematics education nationally, particularly by helping young learners to develop love for the subjects. His professional goals include advancing through the academic ranks to achieve greater distinction in his field. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcome Abdullah Abubakar to deliver his message on behalf of the graduating class.
Thank you very much. Chancellor, members of the University Council, Vice Chancellor, Pro-Vice Chancellors, Registrar, members of the Board of Graduate Studies, Provosts, Deans, and Directors, distinguished guest speaker, members of convocation, staff and students, alumni, parents and guidance, invited guests, members of the media, fellow graduates, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today we stand at the threshold of a new chapter, not merely as an individual who have earned advanced degrees, but as a group that have journeyed together through the rigorous and reward of graduate studies. It is my profound honor to speak on behalf of this remarkable cohort. Cast your mind back to the early days of our programs, the beginning that now feels like a distant memory, yet one engraved in our hearts. For many of us, it began with that very first orientation, where campus was filled with anticipation. The air was thick with excitement and a touch of fear. Am I ready for this? We whispered to ourselves. Those initial lectures that challenged our preconceptions, the tentative smiles exchanged in seminar rooms, the group discussion that sparked lively debate, the sheer volume of knowledge felt like an ocean we were just learning to swim in. We were masters of our undergraduate or master's program. Yet, here we were, beginners again, surrounded by peers whose intellect intimidated and inspired us in equal measure. We also formed connections through shared confusion about online lectures, spirited debates in our common rooms, and over the universal graduate student question. So, what exactly is our research about? Our inspiration for embarking on this path was as diverse as we are. For some, it was a burning curiosity to solve a specific problem, to deconstruct a historical narrative, or to design a more equitable policy. For others, it was the drive to deepen expertise, to change careers, or to fulfill a lifelong dream of contributing to the great conversation of human knowledge. Yet, beneath these individual desires laid a common thread, a belief in the power of deeper understanding. We were inspired by the potential of what we could learn, and most importantly, what we could do without learning. Of course, this path was not a gentle stroll in the park. It was a mountain to climb. Our challenges were rare. Some were the intellectual mountains, such as the research that hit a dead end, the theorem that refused to make sense, and the data that stubbornly refused to be interpreted. There were also the personal trials, such as balancing studies with work, with family, and with life in general. There was occasional loneliness of deep work, and the ever-present shadow of imposter syndrome, which whispers doubt even after a breakthrough. We also faced financial constraints, the sleepless nights before deadlines, and the emotional toll of a global contest that often felt uncertain. Yet, within these challenges, we found our rhythm with perseverance and hard work. Our future aspiration now rests on the foundation laid over these years. Some of us will advance to further research, pushing the boundaries of academia. Others will step into industries, government, or NGOs, armed with critical skills, thinking, and specialized skills. We aspire to be not just experts, but ethical leaders, compassionate innovators, and educators in our own right. We live here not with all the answers, but with better questions and a refined toolkit to seek solutions for a world that deeply needs them. Chancellor, high-quality doctoral research is essential for our future. Yet, it cannot be sustained by individual candidates, especially in the area of mathematics. To become a world-class university, we must resolve the funding gaps that hinder credible research. We are encouraged by the University of Ghana's commitment to improving the research environment and urge the government for expanded investment in this critical endeavor. Fellow graduates, this movement, however, is not ours alone. We are here today as a result of the collective support that has guided us throughout our journey. To our parents, spouses, children, friends, and extended family, we extend our deepest gratitude. Your sacrifices, encouragement, and belief have anchored us. This degree is as much yours as it is ours. On this note, I would like to express special gratitude to my mother, Rehana Idrisu Yai Narusiera, to which, mother, thank you very much. And my wife, Safiatu Shafiu Alidu. I also dedicate this degree to the memory of my late father, Abubakar Ibrahim. To our lecturers, supervisors, and mentors, thank you. You challenged us, guided us, and shared with us not just knowledge, but also your passions. You opened doors to new ways of thinking and held us to a standard we did not always know we could meet. To the non-teaching staff, thank you for the invisible work that kept this institution running, allowing us to focus on learning. Most importantly, to my fellow graduates, look around. These are your comrades. We appreciate the collaborations, debates, share frustrations, and the celebrations. We are grateful for the proofreading, feedback, solidarity, and for simply understanding what this journey felt like. We have made this experience indelible. As we depart, we carry with us more than just a degree. We carried a shared resilience, a refined intellect, and a sense of responsibility. Let us go forth and apply the rigor, the curiosity, and the integrity we have cultivated here. We came as students, we live as scholars and professionals. Congratulations, graduating class of 2024-2025. May our journeys ahead be as transformative as the one we have just completed. In all, we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, to which all praise is due to God, the Lord of the universe. Thank you, University of Ghana. Long live University of Ghana. Thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Abdullah Abubakar. I hope he has stirred something in you to challenge you enough to go out there and be the best version of yourselves. Shall we put our hands together once again for him, please? We shall now have a musical interlude to be performed by Harmonious Chorale, who I'm informed are also here to support their leader who is graduating this morning. Shall we welcome them? Thank you very much, Harmonious Kora. Another round of applause for them, please. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the award of degrees. And I have a few instructions for our graduates. You are seated in the order in which you will be called. You will stand to be presented by the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies. When your degrees are conferred by the Chair of Council representing the Chancellor, she will say to you, Anyeko, and you have to respond, Yaye. You will then resume your seats for the roll call. When you are called, you have to walk up to the front of the platform and face the audience to be acknowledged, after which you wear your cap and file past the platform for a handshake with the Dean and return to your seats. Please follow the directions of the ushers. Courtesy demands that men take off their caps and bow. Women will keep their caps on and courtesy when they come up to the platform. I will now call on the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies to present the graduates for the award of degrees. Graduates, please stand.
Chairperson of Council representing the Chancellor of the University of Ghana. I, Professor Patrick Asamoah Sechi, Dean of the School of Graduate Studies, present to you students of the School of Graduate Studies who, having followed the approved courses of study over the stipulated period and passed the required examination, have thereby become eligible for the academic awards to which their studies entitle them. I pray for conferment of awards due them. Thank you.
Dean of the School of Graduate Studies. By the authority vested in the Chancellor of the University of Ghana, I, Mariette Jewa Brew, Chair of Council representing the Chancellor, hereby pronounce the students presented duly graduated. School of Graduate Studies, Ayuko.
Please, you may resume your seats. Doctor of Philosophy in Agribusiness, Nana Enima Mary Akrofi. She was supervised by Professor Daniel Bruce Sapon, Dr. Yao Bonsu Osei Asari, and Dr. John Jato. Nana Ochrebedu. She was supervised by Professor Daniel Bruce Sapon, Dr. Yao Bonsu Osei Asari, Dr. Charles Yao Ochre, and Professor Taiwan Kim. Harry Bleponi. You're supervised by Professor Kwabena Asumeni Anaman, Reverend Professor Edward Ebo Onuma, Dr. Freda Eliklim Asem, and Professor Taiwoon Kim. Maureen Irekua Odoy. She was supervised by Professor Irene S. Ejiri, Reverend Professor Edward Ebo Onuma, Dr. Yao Osei Asari, and Dr. Richard Asari. Doctor of Philosophy in Animal Science, Kofi Aaron Aboa Ofe, Ajay Henaku. You are supervised by Professor Frederick Obese, Professor Augustine Nazi, and Dr. James Fuche. Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Agricultural Economics and Policy, Stanley Puabaujonga Kambi Lige. You are supervised by Professor Dr. John Baptiste Jato, Professor Akwesi Mensah Bonsu, and Dr. Charles Yao Otre. Jacinta Mutaka Umechuku. She was supervised by Professor Daniel Bruce Sapon, Professor Akwesi Mensah Bonsu, Dr. Ama Ahene Kujo, and Professor Taiwoon Kim. Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Nuclear Physics, Daniel Ni Ejay. He was supervised by Dr. Joseph Tando, Dr. Philip Daitanya, and Dr. Amos Forson. Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Parasitology, Cecilia Elom Lekbo. She was supervised by Professor Jonathan Stiles, Dr. Godfred Futabi, Dr. Adraina Habuzanu, and Professor Kojo Asamoah-Kusi. Doctor of Philosophy in Biochemistry, Peter Nuro Ameyao. He was supervised by Dr. Lily Pemka, Dr. Lucas Amegan Etego, and Professor Kwame Edu Bonsamfo. Bernardine Tuya. She was supervised by Dr. Kwabena Sapon and Dr. Daniel Masko Ayine Tora. Doctor of Philosophy in Chemistry, Justice Akwensi. He was supervised by Professor Richard K. Amewu, Professor Dorcas Osei Safo. Marco Ali. You are supervised by Professor Robert Kingsford Adabo, Professor Dorcas Osei Safo, and Dr. Salah Hafiz Goran. Doctor of Philosophy in Crop Science, Bevelyn Otre. She was supervised by Professor G.K. Budu, Professor Elsie Blay, and Dr. Namle Emesa. Doctor of Philosophy in Earth Science, Jennifer Ejojinam Agbetramedo. She was supervised by Professor Daniel Isiedu, Professor Chris Yao Anane, and Dr. Zubair Jina. Bismarck Awembere Akurugu. He was supervised by Professor Sandal Mark Yidana, Dr. Emmanuel Obobie, Professor Simon Stason, and Professor Larry Parks Chegbele. Doctor of Philosophy in Entomology, Michael Ajiman Atefua. He was supervised by Professor Maxwell Calvin Bila and Professor Rosina Shamanting. Lami Wemdeu Jinatu. The supervisors are Professor Ken Okwe-Fenning and Dr. Lakpo Koku Agboyi. Doctor of Philosophy in Environmental Science, Vida Yerenchi Ejay. She was supervised by Dr. Ted Yamwa Annan and Professor Kennedy Kwesi Ado. Eric Kofi Afonope. The supervisors are Professor Opoku Pabi, Professor Daniel Nukbeza, and Professor Albert Ahenkan. Margaret David Opoku Ajiman. The supervisors were Professor Benedicta Fosu Mensah, Dr. Benjamin Ofori, and Professor Jesse Say Aivo. Austin Dixon Amwako. The supervisors were Professor Abraham Annan, Dr. Ted Annan, and Dr. Fidelia Oheme. Shumesi Ankra Kwatin. The supervisors are Professor Kwesi Apiening Ado, Dr. Samuel Kranting, and Dr. Adelina Mensah. Doctor of Philosophy in Food Process Engineering, Letitia Donko. The supervisors are Professor Nicole Sharon Afrifa, Professor Firibu Kwesi Salia, and Dr. Emmanuel Essien. Doctor of Philosophy in Food Science, Dora Ofori Apia. The supervisors are Professor Firibu Kwesi Salia, Professor Nicole Sharon Afrifa, and Professor Matilda Steiner Esiedu. Doctor of Philosophy in Marine Science, Michael Kwame Baini. You are supervised by Professor Kwesi Apiening Ado, Dr. Benjamin Osebotri, Dr. Peter Bogen Sorensen, and Dr. Philip Neri Jason Kwashiga. Doctor of Philosophy in Material Science and Engineering, Abdallah Sweeney Salifu. He was supervised by Professor David Dodu Ahin and Professor Benjamin Ejay Tufo. Doctor of Philosophy in Mathematics, Abdullah Abubakar. He was supervised by Professor Ellen Henk, Dr. Ralph Ivy Chum, and Dr. Douglas Edu Jemfi. Doctor of Philosophy in Medical Physics, George Felix Aqua. He was supervised by Professor Francis Hasford, Dr. Samuel Ni Edu Tego, and Professor Ernest Osei. Bright Kojobua. He was supervised by Professor Edem Kwablas Sosu, Professor Francis Hasford, and Dr. Prince Jechi. Emmanuel Fiagbeji. The supervisors are Professor Francis Hasford, Dr. Samuel Ni Edutego, and Professor Andy Nisbet. Doctor of Philosophy in Molecular Cell Biology and Infectious Diseases, William Agbozo. He was supervised by Professor Solomon Ofori Akwa, Professor Jonathan Stiles, Dr. Lily Pemka, and Dr. Samuel J. Seth Ajiman. He was supervised by Professor Linda Eva Amwa, Dr. Evelyn Yaira Boni, and Dr. George Boatinche. Emmanuel Alote. He was supervised by Professor Kwabena Obeng Duedu and Professor Lydia Mosi. Kristen Echiamo. She was supervised by Professor Theresa Manfo Juira, Dr. Calvin Tiengwe, and Dr. Love Yamf. John Sandy. He was supervised by Dr. Lily Pemka, Dr. Peter Kwashi, and Professor Christine Anderson. Doctor of Philosophy in Nuclear Agriculture, Gloria Anyensom Adazibra. She was supervised by Professor Harry Amwate, Professor Samuel Amite, and Dr. Nusrat Chema Afo. Francesca Adai Frempoma. She was supervised by Dr. Godwin Amenope, Professor Samuel Amite, and Dr. Nicholas Denwa. Doctor of Philosophy in Nutrition, Louise Mame Donko Aye. She was supervised by Professor Seth Edu Ofawa, Professor Paul Hastings, and Professor Benjamin Amponsa. Felix Kwekuchre. He was supervised by Professor Seth Edu Ofawa, Dr. Agatha Naki Oheming, and Professor Raina Egglestone. Helen Inti. She was supervised by Professor Seth Edu Ofariwa, Professor Greta Oaks, Professor Paul Hastings, and Dr. Adum Menu. Francis Zinenuba Tabia. He was supervised by Professor Agatha Naki Oheming, Professor Seth Edu Ofariwa, and Professor Bretta Oaks. Doctor of Philosophy in Plant Breeding, Juan Josephine Cheptu Kimutai. She was supervised by Professor Panjiyari Tunguna, Professor Eric Dankwa, Professor Beatrice Ife, and Dr. Beatrice Ife, and Dr. Dan Makumbi. Mawulawe Adjoe Awiti. She was supervised by Professor Panjirai Kanguna, Professor Eric Yirenchi Dankwa, and Dr. Beatrice Ife, and Dr. Sylvia Eleblu. Frederick Justice Auku. He was supervised by Professor Isaac Asante, Dr. Francis Kusi, Dr. John Xavier Yao Eleblu, and Professor Kojo Ofori. Yosef Alemu Bekele. He was supervised by Professor Eric Dankwa, Professor Kojo Ofori, Dr. Ajiman Dankwa, and Dr. Salamawit Ketema. Wilfred Abincha Baganji. He was supervised by Professor Panjirai Tonguna, Professor Kojo Ofori, Professor Daniel Kojo Jijenyo, and Dr. Benjamin Musembi Kivuva. Allen Molly. She was supervised by Professor Kojo Ofori, Professor Isaac Asante, Dr. Ajiman Dankwa, and Dr. Siddiq Magewa. Wagatwa Njoroge. He was supervised by Professor Miriam Kinyua, Professor Samuel Kwame Ofe, Professor Kojo Ofori, and Dr. Theresa Ankama Yabwa. Shamaka Chinasa Obasi. He was supervised by Professor Kojo Ofori, Professor Isaac Kojo Asante, Dr. John Xavier Yao Eleblu, and Professor Abraham Ngweta. Abiodun Fatai Olayinka. He was supervised by Professor Panjirai Tonguna, Professor Samuel Kwame Ofe, Professor Daniel Jijenyo, and Professor Chiedoze Igezi. Kataliko Katembo Richard. He was supervised by Professor Kojo Ofori, Professor Isaac Asante, Professor Paul Kimani, and Dr. John Eleblu. Enoch Wembabazi, he was supervised by Professor Kojo Ofori, Professor Eric Yirenchi Dankwa, Dr. Daniel Kojo Jijanyo, and Dr. Robert Kawuki Sezi. Lillian Noela Wasonga, she was supervised by Professor Penjerai Tonguna, Dr. Beatrice Ife, and Professor Eric Yirenchi Dankwa. Doctor of Philosophy in Radiation Protection, Eunice Nyako Befi. She was supervised by Professor David Okokpeglo, Professor Augustine Fano, and Dr. Philip Diatanya. Doctor of Philosophy in Soil Science, Helen Emefa Agbanyaga. She was supervised by Professor Daniel Dodo, Professor Samuel Adiku, and Professor Doran Niena. Abena Asamoah Bediako. She was supervised by Professor Daniel Dodo, Professor Samuel Adiku, and Professor Dora Niena. Justice Kwesi Bedu. He was supervised by Professor G.N.N. Dowona, Professor T.A. Ajade, Professor Dora Niena. Diop Mariam. She was supervised by Professor Samuel Adiku, Professor Delis McCarthy, and Dr. Selassie Adano. Doctor of Philosophy in Nursing, Millicent Ara Bapwa. She was supervised by Professor Samuel Ajololo, Dr. Gideon Lawe Pupilampo, and Professor Adote Enum. Veronica Ajwa Ejare. She was supervised by Professor Lillian Akofa Ohene, Professor Lydia Aziato, and Dr. Luke La. Eva Mensah. She was supervised by Professor Lydia Azato and Dr. Luke Larry. Doctor of Philosophy in Public Health, Marijanatu Abdullahi. She was supervised by Professor Bismarck Safo, Dr. Harriet Afran Bonfo, Dr. Adolfina Adolate, and Professor Philip Tech Nefa Tabon. Timothy Aganda Abagre. He was supervised by Professor Francis Anto, Professor Bismarck Safo, and Dr. Priscilla Northey. Norbert Nda Amuna. He was supervised by Professor Richmond Aite, Dr. Deda Ogum, and Professor Juliana Yate Enos. Dela Akosia Bando. She was supervised by Professor Mauli Jojomanyo, Professor Enes Kenu, and Professor Diajumo. Isaac Bwedu. He was supervised by Dr. Adom Menu, Dr. Emefa Modi, and Professor Richmond Niokai Aite. Emmanuel Sena Kwesi Donko. He was supervised by Professor Justice Nomvengon, Dr. Genevieve Cecilia Aite, and Dr. Augustine Kodia. Lucy Brempong Ofori Aye. She was supervised by Professor Moses Akins, Professor Patricia Awengo, and Professor Emmanuel Asampong. Mame Sewa Opare Boafo. She was supervised by Professor Mauli Jijomenyo, Professor Jim Wright, Professor Dia Jomo, and Dr. Reginald Kwanzaa. Irene Honam Che. She was supervised by Professor Paulina Tendana, Professor John Ganley, and Professor Patricia Akwengo. Doctor of Philosophy in Adult Education and Human Resource Studies, Hamidu Mohammed Damba. You are supervised by Professor Michael Tego, Professor David Adai, and Dr. Delali Amuzu. Evelyn Chumesi. She was supervised by Professor Yao Oheniba Sechi, Reverend Professor Moses Kumi Asamoah, and Dr. Philip Mante. Doctor of Philosophy in Accounting, Philomena Akwa. She was supervised by Professor Godfred Matthew Yao Owusu, Dr. Mrs. Rita Amwa Bequin. Lawrence Kweku Amwako. He was supervised by Professor Francis Abuaje Ochre and Dr. Cletus Ajenim Boateng. Kwesi Poku Apia. He was supervised by Professor Francis Abuaje Ochre and Dr. Cletus Ajenim Boateng. Prince Yabua Boateng. He was supervised by Professor Francis Abuaje Ochre and Dr. Nicholas Asare. Theodora Abba Abeka Kumson. She was supervised by Professor Godfred Matthew Yao Owusu and Dr. Rita Amwa Bequin. Gabriel Kranche. He was supervised by Professor Godfred Matthew Yao Owusu and Dr. Mrs. Edem Emerald Saba Welbeck. Parenda Adra Beli. She was supervised by Professor Mohammed Amidu, Professor William Kofi, and Professor Samuel Fosu. Roxanne Menta. He was supervised by Dr. Rita Amwa Bequin and Professor Godfred Matthew Yao Owusu. Charles Ofori Owusu. He was supervised by Professor Godfred Matthew Yao Owusu, Dr. Cletus Ajenim Boateng, and Dr. Mrs. Edem Emerald Saba Welbeck. Resta Togomi. The supervisors are Professor William Kofi, Professor Mohammed Amidu, and Professor Samuel Fosu. Doctor of Philosophy in African Studies, Jacob Ibrahim Abdu. He was supervised by Professor Albert Awedoba and Professor Samuel Intewusu. Kwesi Agri. The supervisors are Professor Sebastian Kojo Amano, Professor Daniel Avogbedo, and Professor Anne Kasiman. Lydia Amwa. She was supervised by Professor Emerita Techiwa Menu, Professor Ebenezer Ayesu, and Professor Alidu Seidu Mahama. Tete Goswell Areko. He was supervised by Professor A.C. Sutherland Adi and Dr. David Oko Odoi. Peter Jamponsa Bembe. He was supervised by Professor Richard Asante, Professor Emmanuel Kwesi Ening, and Professor Pius Saikwa. Ruth Karenhini Bwedu Mango. She was supervised by Professor Albert Awedoba, Professor Mercy Akrofi Ansan, and Professor Abadele Kambon. Doctor of Philosophy in Development Studies, Faustina Chumwa Jima. She was supervised by Professor Richmond Ni Okai Ayete and Professor Amapoko Afeni. Doctor of Philosophy in English, Emma Kesoba Pedova. She was supervised by Professor Gladys Ansa, Professor Jemima Anderson. Doctor of Philosophy in Finance, Idrisu Abdullahi. He was supervised by Professor Anthony Abuaje and Professor Lord Mensa. James Atambila Abugri. He was supervised by Professor Joshua Yideneba Abo, and Professor Joseph Nellis, and Dr. Emmanuel Joel Akins Abaka. Alexander Kweku. He was supervised by Professor Anthony Abuaje, Professor Emmanuel Sapon, Kuma, and Professor Godfred Bob Pin. Michael Lawe Tete. The supervisors are Professor Charles Ando, Professor Anthony Abuaje, and Professor Godfred Amewu. Ekia Mensima Apia Thompson. The supervisors are Dr. Sawenam Chachu and Professor Augustine Asa. Safako Comfort Kameda. Safako Comfort Gameda. She was supervised by Professor Boleka, Dr. Elias Kosi Keza, and Dr. Imoro Abdullahi. David Tete Teria. He was supervised by Dr. Imoro Abdullahi, Dr. Samuel Kofi, and Dr. Cephas Sela.
Doctor of Philosophy in Geography and Resource Development, Alfred Akayuda Akogo, supervised by Professor Joseph Yaro, Professor Charlotte Wrigley Asante, Professor Austin Ablo. Cynthia Azochiman Awuni, supervised by Prof. Samuel Ejaimensa, Prof. George Owusu, Prof. Gerald Iran, Prof. Sando Mark Yidana. Ekia Nyamiche Dako. She was supervised by Professor Charlotte Wrigley Asante, Dr. Ebenezer Nikoi, Professor Joseph Tay. Kidir Idris. He was supervised by Professor Martin Oting Abebio, Professor Christoph Scherer, Professor Andreas Bouquet, George Yao Kafu, supervised by Professor Joseph Awitori Yaro, Professor Austin Jiwonu Ablo, Professor Joseph Kofite, Doctor of Philosophy in Health Policy and Management, Richard Otre Minta, supervised by Prof. Gordon Abekankroma, Professor Patience Asewe Abo, Ralph Punamani. He was supervised by Dr. Anita A. Baku, Professor Patience A. Abo, Professor Gordon Abekankroma. Doctor of Philosophy in Human Resource Management, Yvonne Barnier. She was supervised by Professor Dan Ofori, Dr. Margarine O. Amankwa, Dr. Eric Dell, Doctor of Philosophy in International Affairs, Benditi Chito, supervised by Prof. Alidu Seidu, Dr. Emmanuel Kojo, Dr. Nene Lomose Kudicha. Catherine Denu, she was supervised by Dr. Kipo Sunyezi, Dr. Adriana A.E. Baini, Professor Ayaga A. Bawa. Persis Inshiwa Ofori, she was supervised by Prof. Philip Atukwefio, Prof. Edward Asiedu, Prof. Emmanuel Kujo. Doctor of Philosophy in Law, Tunis Edward Amuzu. He was supervised by Dr. Abdul Basit Aziz Bamba, Dr. Benjamin Kumbo, Dr. Richmond Kwesi. Clara Kolaga Caserti. She was supervised by Dr. Benjamin Kumbo, Professor Lucy White, Professor Abdallah Ali Nachir. Francis Kofi Cranches Sechi, supervised by Professor Raymond Akombro Atuguba, Dr. Olufemi Oluyeju. Francis Xavier Kojo Sosu. He was supervised by Professor Kojo Apieje Etia, Dr. Juliana Apia, Dr. Abdul Basit Aziz Bamba, Professor Atuduwe Atupare. Doctor of Philosophy in Marketing, Martin Ejay. He was supervised by Professor Stephen Mahama Brahma, Professor Bedman Nate, Professor Mahmoud Abdullahi Mahmoud. Bernice Boache. She was supervised by Professor Mahmoud A. Mahmoud, Professor Stephen M. Brahma. Isaac Guma. He was supervised by Professor Mahmoud Mahmoud, Professor Raphael Odum. Norbert Wynne. He was supervised by Professor Mahmoud Mahmoud, Professor Stephen M. Berima. William Asamoah Owusu. He was supervised by Professor Kobi Mensah, Professor Mahmoud Abdullahi Mahmoud, Professor Kwame Adom. Doctor of Philosophy in Migration Studies, Isaka John Braimer. He was supervised by Professor Martin Oting Abebio, Dr. Obodai Toto, Dr. Emmanuel Kennedy. Kwejo Clement Kodum Adai. He was supervised by Professor Stephen Owusu Kwanche, Dr. Obodai Toto, Dr. Terry Bright Kweku Ofosu. Doctor of Philosophy in Museum and Heritage Studies, Portia Ama Bansa. She was supervised by Professor Benjamin Kankpeying, Dr. Samuel Nkumban, Dr. David Akwesi Mensah Abrampa. Doctor of Philosophy in Music, James Varick Kofi Ama. He was supervised by Professor Joshua Alfred Amoa, Professor John Francis Redu, Dr. Alfred Patrick Adakwe, Anthony Jisa. He was supervised by Professor Daniel Avogbedo, Dr. Peter Chum Berima. Foster Edison Maushi. He was supervised by Professor Edmund John Collins, Professor Austin O. Emuelu. Michael Ohene Okansa Jr. He was supervised by Dr. Ajwa Ahin, Dr. Eric Sunu Do. Doctor of Philosophy in Philosophy, Doji Koku Hato. He was supervised by Professor Martin Ode Ajay, Dr. Yao A. Ajiman Boafo, Professor Aimee van Winsberg, Yao Yirenchi Lamte. He was supervised by Prof. Haske Majid, Dr. Chika C. Imba. Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, Paul Clinton Appiah. He was supervised by Prof. Ransford Jampo, Dr. Mame Jechejando, Professor Seidu M. Alidu. Elsie Pokua Menu. She was supervised by Prof. Abeku Esiman Johnson, Dr. Mame Ajwa Jechejando, Dr. Nene Lomose Kudicha. William Kofi Osil. He was supervised by Professor Kwame Boafo Arthur, Dr. Emmanuel Yeboah Esiama, Dr. Mame Ajwa Jechejando. Doctor of Philosophy in Population Studies, Esther Edu. She was supervised by Professor Stephen Owusu Kwanche, Dr. Adriana Baini, Dr. Lily Kobi. Esther Kalua Atujona. She was supervised by Professor Stephen O. Kwanche, Dr. Fidelia A. Dake. Andrew Kweku Kondia. He was supervised by Dr. Fidelia Dake, Dr. Aaron Kobina Christian, Dr. Lily N.A. Kobi. Marian Wanda Afi Papa. She was supervised by Professor Stephen O. Kwanche, Professor Ayaga Agula Bawa, Dr. Faustina Frimpong Angwa. Na Ajele Mensa. She was supervised by Professor Stephen Owusu Kwanche, Dr. Adriana Andrea Irabna Baini, Very Reverend Dr. Abraham Boateng. Akosia Efriye Osei Apo. She was supervised by Dr. Aaron Kobina Christian, Professor Ayaga Agula Bawa, Dr. Lily Kobi. Doctor of Philosophy in Psychology, Emmanuel Inkansa Anoche. He was supervised by Professor Maxwell Isuming, Dr. Inusa Abdul Nasiru, Dr. Collins Bedu Ajiman. Seth Maushi Asafo. He was supervised by Professor Joseph Osafo Edu, Professor Charity S. Akutia, Dr. Angela Anefi Jesse Jemura, Dr. Johnny Andor Arthur. Vida Asa Aye. She was supervised by Professor Adote Enum, Professor Amma DeGraft Akins. Akosia Sewa Bonsu. She was supervised by Professor Kweku Opong Asante, Professor Joanna Salifu Yendok, Dr. Enoch John Doche. Stella Nati. She was supervised by Professor Charles Matekole, Professor Annabella Osei Tutu, Professor Enoch Tei Kwajo. Annie Osua Nkulenu. She was supervised by Dr. Inusa Abdul Nasiru, Professor Francis Ano, Dr. Eric Dell. Lillian Efwa Phillips Kumaga. She was supervised by Professor Annabella Osei Tutu, Dr. Charles Brenya Riafe Akenton. Doctor of Philosophy in Public Administration and Policy Management, Victoria Hammer. She was supervised by Professor Albert Ahenkain, Professor Emmanuel Kojo Sechi, Dr. Daniel Apia. Doctor of Philosophy in Sociology, Elvis Amponsa Asamoah. He was supervised by Professor Kojo Sena, Dr. Kojovi Akpabli Honu. Jane Aku Geraldo. She was supervised by Professor Michael P.K. Otrefo, Professor Okusia K. Dakwa. Vida Yamwa Sa. She was supervised by Prof. Dan Bright S. Jogbo, Prof. Steve William Tona. Doctor of Philosophy in Study of Religions, Ojo Joseph Raphael. His supervisors were Professor Rosemary Amenga Etego, Professor Elizabeth Amoa.
Our dear fresh graduates, congratulations. We are very proud of you. As fresh graduates, you may now take a moment to move the tassels on your caps from the right to the left to signify your graduation. Congratulations once again, and another round of applause for yourselves. As alumni of the University of Ghana, you are our international ambassadors. We expect you to translate the knowledge gained in this institution to benefit humanity. We pray that You will be our institution's most loyal supporters and make us proud wherever you find yourselves. I'm also to inform you that you all have UG branded water under your seats to quench your thirst. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I shall now invite the Chair of Council representing the Chancellor to deliver her closing remarks and to dissolve congregation, after which the Director of Public Affairs will take over proceedings. Thank you very much.
Members of Council, Vice Chancellor and other officers of the University, my Lord Guest Speaker, members of Convocation, staff and students, alumni, new graduates, guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As we end this ceremony, I would like to salute all those who have worked hard to ensure a successful event, particularly those who played various roles in the planning and organization of today's event, as well as the 16 other congregation ceremonies that are to take place this month. To the fresh graduates, you have worked hard over the periods that you have been students at this university, and you deserve all the laurels that you have acquired. I congratulate you all on your achievements and urge you to be worthy ambassadors of your alma mater. May the education and skills you have acquired at this university guide and inspire your path, and may your journey be defined by success, fulfillment, and a meaningful, lasting impact on the world. I wish you success in your future endeavors, and do be guided by the university's core values of integrity, commitment, respect, and loyalty. Congratulations once again. Go out into the world with pride, purpose, and the knowledge that you are well prepared to make a difference. To our guest speaker for today, His Lordship Justice Richard J. Frimpong, we appreciate your presence and participation in the ceremony and your kind words to our fresh graduates. In particular, he told you, let your work speak for you, so never forget that. Thank you all for joining us for this ceremony. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is now my duty to declare this congregation ceremony officially dissolved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair of the University Council, representing the Chancellor. Please let's give her another round of applause. We thank you all for joining us for this very important ceremony, both those of you here physically and those who joined us virtually. And to our fresh graduates, congratulations once more. We congratulate you on your achievements, and we encourage you to shine, just as the Chair of Council did. We encourage you to shine in your various fields of endeavor, and when you do, please share your success stories with us, and we are sure to celebrate you on all our platforms. Congratulations. We'd like to thank all the groups that performed at this ceremony, the Ghana Dance Ensemble, as well as Harmonious Choral. We thank you so much for showing up at your director's graduation ceremony. In fact, your performance was very impressive. At a point, I thought your director was delivering his PhD viva. Thank you very much. But I would like to use this opportunity to extend an invitation to you. Our fourth strategic priority is engagement and partnerships. And we would like to partner with you because we organize a lot of programs that demand choral music. And so we open our doors for you to partner us for such programs. I saw your patron here, Dr. Joyce Ayi. She was herself once a college advisory board member at the College of Education, and I believe that she'll add her voice to this call. We'll look forward to that. Now let's please pay attention to these announcements. After the university anthem, we'll kindly request all graduates to stand. Now you are graduates, you are no longer graduates, you are graduates now. So we request that you stand, and then the platform party will recess, and then we'll all meet at the Vice Chancellor's court, where we have the bust of our former Vice Chancellors for group photographs. And we invite the valedictorian to be on the front row with our officials. You all also join the group photograph. Please take note. After the recession, the platform party will retire to the Vice Chancellor's lodge, and we invite the valedictorian together with his guests to join us there. We'd like to inform you that we have accredited as well as commercial photographers whom we have given tags to. If you want to take graduation photos, please engage these people. We have accredited photographers as well as commercial photographers. And they are stationed at the AZ quadrangle, which is around the registry. It is close to the cash office. If you know the cash office, there's a quadrangle close to the cash office. You see a setup there by the accredited photographers. They also have a setup close to the Information Technology Directorate, which we used to call UGCS, so you can see them to take memorable photos of yourselves. And our commercial photographers are stationed at the Sam Abua Recreational Quadrangle, the beautiful garden behind the BAM Library. You can engage their services as well. But in case you are engaging their services, be sure they hold tags from the Public Affairs Directorate of the university, so that in case you need to track them, we'll assist you to do so. And when you take your graduation photographs, please remember to share on these hashtags. Hashtag UG Congregation and hashtag UG Class of 2026. When you take your graduation photos, please share them on these hashtags. Hashtag UG Congregation, hashtag UG Graduation 2026. We'd like to encourage you all to kindly return your gowns right after your photographs. Please return them to the collection points. Graduates from the University of Ghana Business School, please return your gowns to the RS Amegashi Auditorium for your certificates. If you look into your brochure, you realize that we've dedicated about 7 pages to our graduate programs. 7 pages from page 91. 7 pages, we've dedicated 7 pages to our graduate programs. We want you to encourage your friends and family to apply and grab certificates from here, graduate certificates from here, in order to complete their CVs. If you don't have a program, a degree from the University of Ghana, your CV is not complete. So advise them to complete their CVs. And also, if you turn to page 99 of your brochure, there's a call from our Alumni Association. You've been encouraged to join our Alumni Association. There's a QR code there that leads to a small form. Please scan the form, fill it, and join our prestigious Alumni Association. At this point, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let's rise for the university anthem.
Thank you.
remain standing as the platform party recesses.